Hi guys, it's Jocelyn back with another Coffee with Joe update. Today I am drinking nothing because it's late at night and I need to sleep today because I'm not sleeping, and I will tell you why in this video. So I know it's been a long time. The last few months have been absolutely insane health-wise. It's been really hard actually. This whole summer was really hard on me and my body. And so that's why it's taken so long to do a video. So I don't quite remember what I last talked about, but I'm just gonna basically like sum up everything. I'm also gonna talk about my most recent hospital visit. That was huge. A lot happened in that hospital visit, or stay, I should say. I didn't visit, I stayed. And also in the last, like, I would say like week or so, 2 weeks maybe, a lot has happened as well. So I'll talk about that as well in this video. So over the summer, well actually, okay, since I have been put on Inflectra, it has not worked well for me at all. Basically after my Inflectra injection, it would last me about 2, if good, 3 weeks. And then I would immediately go in a flare-up. And most flare-ups, what would happen is I would wait a couple of days just to make sure it wasn't just something bad I ate, and then it would go back to normal. And then my cat's under the chair and it's really distracting. Sorry if you hear meowing, guys. Anyways, yeah, so I would get in a flare-up, and then I would wait a couple of days to make sure that it wasn't just something bad I ate. And then what I would have to do is I would call my doctor. It would take a couple days for him to get back to me. Then he would make me do tests. And then once those test results come back, he would send me for an emergency injection. And usually on those emergency injections, they up the dosage as well as how often I get it. So when I originally went on Inflectra, when I got out of the hospital, I was at, I think, 500 mils every 8 weeks. And right before I went to the hospital, I was 800 mils every 4 weeks. So, like, they just kept on upping it and stuff like that. The summer was really bad, especially because it was so hot, right from May, basically. And he puts me in a flare-up, like, anything that is over, like, 24 degrees, and 24 degrees is like pushing it if I'm outside for a long period of time, which sucks because Manitoba summers get so hot. Yeah, anything above that, I would just instantly feel terrible and I would go into a flare-up. So I didn't really get to enjoy much of this summer. If I did, I was either sucking it up and trying to act like I wasn't in a flare-up and hide a lot of it because I didn't want to admit that I was still getting sick and this wasn't like working out, or I was just not enjoying it at all and I was stuck on the couch throwing up and going to the bathroom every 10-15 minutes and not retaining anything. Yeah, it was not good. It wasn't good at all. And so towards basically almost all of August, I was in a flare-up. It was pretty bad. My shot I got right before August, it kind of worked, but it kind of didn't. Like, I wasn't in a flare-up, but like my bathroom habits weren't where they should have been. But I was like, okay, well, you know, whatever, I'm not in a flare-up. And then I slowly went into a flare-up, and so of course I did the process where, like, you know, I wait a few days, I call, they do tests, all that stuff. And so he sent me for an emergency injection. Now this flare-up was, I want to say, the worst flare-up I've ever been in since I've been diagnosed. It was so bad. I would literally drink water and then throw up water. Like, there was nothing in me at all. Like, that's how bad. And I couldn't eat anything. Like, the smell of food made me nauseous. It was so bad. But usually once I get an injection, I didn't wait till that point to call the doctor, that was towards like the end of the flare-up or whatever, but usually at that point, that's when you go to the hospital. But the doctor called and said he had emergency injections scheduled for me literally the Friday before the weekend. If I had to go through the weekend, I wasn't going through the weekend, I was going to the hospital. Like, there was no way. So it was Friday, and I actually went to a completely different clinic. They like literally called me and they were like, can you make it here in 15 minutes? And I was like, yes, I will be there in 15 minutes. And usually when I get injections, they work almost instantly. I would say within an hour of getting them, like it's just instant, like it's like magic. So I got the injection and I did feel better, but also I forgot that like they give me Benadryl and hydrocortisone, so a lot of that was masking my symptoms. I felt better, like head-wise. I wasn't as nauseous. I felt like I could eat. I was hungry again, ish. So I thought I was better. So we had food, and I want to say an hour later, like instant, like the bathroom was not good. And I was like, oh boy, this is not good at all. And then after that, like every 15-20 minutes, I was going to the bathroom again. I was like, it didn't work. And so I called the center, whatever, the place I get my injections back, because my doctor's office was closed and we were going into the weekend. And they said usually it takes quite a bit of time, like it can take up to 2 days. And I was like, well, that's not normal for me. Like normally it works instantly. And they were like, well, that's a little weird. Maybe you should call your doctor. And I was looking at the time. I was like, oh, it's closed. And I didn't know what to do. So Steve and I prayed about it, and we're like, okay, I have to go to HFC if I go to a hospital. And it was already nighttime, and I didn't want to go at nighttime. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to sleep here tonight, because at least I can still be in my bed. And if I'm not better in the morning, we're going in the morning. And so Steve left for work like super early in the morning. I woke up around 8 and I was not better. So he came back from work and he drove me to the hospital. And so it was okay. Like the experience in the day at HSC in the emergency room is completely different than like nighttime, like night and day difference, literally. I do have quite a few funny stories. They might not be appropriate for some people who might watch this video, so if you want to hear some of those funny stories, you can message me, or next time I see you, like ask me about it. I will gladly tell you and give you a bit of a laugh. But yeah, but I did wait 12 hours in the ER waiting room. It was a long wait and it was terrible. It felt terrible. They gave me T3 for the pain and a gravel, but they can only administer like one like medication or whatever per wait in the waiting room. But because I waited so long in the waiting room, the nurse got permission to administer another one because they just couldn't admit me. And eventually I wound up getting a room. And then once I was in the ER, or like the room in the ER emergency room or whatever, within 15 minutes they admitted me. They were like, yeah, no, this girl's staying. I was really, really bad. You're like, I can't remember what it's called, but like your levels of like hydration or something like that in your body for a normal person are supposed to be at like 3, and I was at like a 9 and a 10, so which is bad apparently. I guess like the lower the number the better. I'm not sure how that worked out. Maybe that's the dehydration levels, I don't know. But yeah, so that was how bad it was. So they couldn't get me into the GI ward at HSC for a day, so I was downstairs in the ER room for a day or whatever, and they just put me on IVs. The moment I was on an IV, like, that was it. I was out. And a lot of, like, I want to say, I was there for a total of 10 days, and the first, like, 4 to 5 days were really fuzzy for me, so I don't remember a lot that happened. I was on T3 and morphine for pain, because this was also the first time I was in a flare-up where I was literally, like, had, like, terrible, terrible pains, like sharp, like terrible pains in my stomach. It's probably because there was literally nothing in there. I was also on a Jello diet, and then also within that time I got my second COVID shot, which probably made everything worse, but gladly I was in the hospital, so I was able to get the meds I needed to cover that pain. So yeah, I don't remember a lot from the first like few days, but I do remember like towards the end. So overall, basically what happened was my flare-up was so bad that also my kidney and my liver were inflamed. They did like, of course they did every single scan that they always do, like CT, MRI, ultrasound. They also did like a different type of like CT to check my like lungs and esophagus for some reason. I don't remember why exactly. I think they were, oh, the ducts in my liver. Thank you. And the kidney, that's what they did. It was like a special scan for that. They also did a colonoscopy, was there? A partial colonoscopy, so basically you don't have to do any prep for it. And they just checked compared to like at the beginning when I first got diagnosed. So yeah, and then around the 7-day mark, so at like the 4-day mark, I was able to go back on food. Around the 7-day mark, they said I was well enough to go home to heal the rest of the way there. But first you have to walk around to make sure that you can walk before you leave the hospital. And I had not gone, except for going to the bathroom, and I was like right next to the bathroom, so I was not walking far. Besides that, I had not walked anywhere. Like I was very, very weak. So I got up to walk, and instantly I almost fell over. A nurse had to like stabilize me. And I tried walking to the desk. And then the moment I turned around, I was so dizzy. It was like everything had happened again. It was like I was on a ship again, and I was right back to square one with all my head issues. It was so bad, and I was super nauseous and everything, and I was profusely sweating. Like I did not understand. I cannot even begin to tell you guys how sweaty I was just from walking. It was insane. And I got back to my bed and I just started crying. I was bawling my eyes out, and the nurse was like, "Why are you crying?" She probably thought I was nuts. And I don't tell when I go into the hospital for GI problems. I also have a head issue all the time because I've had problems in the past with explaining 2 different issues, and then they get confused and miscommunication stuff. So if I'm there for GI issues, unless I'm on a medication wise for my head issues, like I just talk about GI. So I hadn't told anyone there that I've been off work for 2 years for an ongoing head issue. So I began to tell the nurse everything, and I told her how I've been off work 2 years for a head issue, and it's been constant dizziness and not being able to read and not being able to comprehend things and not being able to multitask and just everything. And the dizziness was already getting under control, and there was only certain things that were making me dizzy, and I was able to control those things. And I was just basically like, it was just these eye migraines I was having issues with, and we were trying to get that under control. And I thought I was like well on my way to like being healthy again. And then everything just came rushing back. And so they did a CT or an MRI of my head, I can't remember which one, and just like rule out some things. And they were like, well, let's give her like another day. You know, she hadn't moved really. They were like, just make sure you're sitting up more and stuff like that. So I did that. I sat up more. I tried walking a little around more, and I just couldn't. Like, I was like on a boat again. It was so bad, and my head felt like 1,000,000 pounds. So, and I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle sitting up. Like, I couldn't balance my head. That's how heavy it was. So eventually the neurologist from HSC came up and talked to me, and she actually sat with me for like an hour to an hour and a half and like listened to me fully without interrupting. I didn't feel rushed or anything, and she asked me a ton of questions I've never been asked before by anyone, and I've seen a lot of specialists. And I was like, it was stuff like, do you pee often? What are some other ones? Do you feel like there's pins and needles in your head? Like, do you have a hard time regulating the temperature in your body? Like, weird questions like that. And like, I was like, huh. But also like, why are you asking me these questions? So, she said, she was like, so it sounds like you have something called POTS disease. And we're going to do a test on you to confirm it. But I'm going to speak to my head neurologist or whatever, and then we'll come back and we'll possibly do this test on you. I was like, okay. So she came back and she said, yeah, my head neurologist says we need to do this test on you to confirm. So basically what this test is that you lie down and they take your blood pressure and your pulse. Then you sit up for 5 minutes, and then they take your blood pressure and pulse. And then you stand up for 5 minutes, and they take your blood pressure and pulse. So I lied down, and my blood pressure and pulse were normal. I'm going to use like 80. I want to say around 70 to 80, if that's normal. I don't know. I'm just going to use that number to like explain it to you guys. And then when I sat up, like my blood pressure stayed the same. But my pulse shot up to like 180, so like 100 ticks, like higher or whatever. And I started sweating instantly, and I was dizzy instantly. But she didn't tell me that my pulse was changing, so I had no idea why. I was like, I don't understand. And then I stood up again, and it didn't change at all. My blood pressure maybe moved up like 1 or 2 ticks, but like that was it. And then my pulse was like still like 180, 175, and I could barely stand. Like the nurse had to hold on to me by like the 3-minute mark of standing. Like it was really, really hard, and I was sweating. It was so hard. And she said, yeah, so you definitely have POTS. I guess that's the test. And so basically, if your blood pressure does not change, but your pulse does, like that indicates you have POTS disease. And so I started crying. And again, I was crying like crazy in the hospital. And the nurse was like, why are you crying? And I was like, because I've literally been seen by so many specialists for the last 2 years. And not one person has been able to figure out what is wrong with me. And I've been called crazy. I have been called stupid. I've been called an attention seeker. I've been called terrible things by people I know and the medical field. And it's been really, really discouraging. And it explains basically every single symptom I have, except for like my eye migraines that I get, are under or POTS disease. And I'll explain what that is in a minute. So they put me on medication for it in the hospital. And once that was regulated, so about a day or 2 later, I was released from the hospital. And so I was also referred to a cardiologist. There's only one in the city, though, for POTS disease. So I have not heard from them yet, so I don't know how long it's going to take for me to see a cardiologist to confirm how to live my life. But essentially, what POTS is, I'm going to try to explain it in the best terms I can possible, but I encourage everyone to Google it later. Don't come at me if I'm wrong on some things, and these are just some key points and I do know about it. And I have not seen the specialist about it yet either, so this is only what I know from Google and from what the nurse told me in the hospital. So POTS stands for something. It's quite a long name, so I also encourage you to look that up. But basically, it's a nervous system issue in the body, and it's the same nervous system that controls your sweating and regulating temperature. So people with POTS either are sweating profusely or they're cold all the time. So I unfortunately am sweating all the time. Also your fight or flight, that is also controlled by the same one, nervous system, as well as so for example, I always want to run from everything. I don't like dealing with conflict. I get anxiety of conflict and stuff like that. And since I've had my head issue, it's gotten worse, like significantly worse. So that explains a lot. Also, it controls how much you urinate. So when she asked me, this is gonna be crazy, but like when she asked me how often I go to the bathroom, I was like, oh, I don't know. And she's like, just really think about it for a minute. Like, how often do you go to the bathroom? And I was like, okay. So like I was thinking about it, and I was like 15 to 18 times a day. And her mouth dropped, and I'm like, is that not normal? Like, and she's like, no, that's not normal for a person. So yeah, so my body, basically, that whole nervous system is damaged from what they think was the original concussion in 2017. So in 2017, I was walking to work one day and I slipped on the ice and I didn't want to hit my head, and I curved my back and I wound up hitting my spine really hard. And they called it what is called a spinal cord concussion. And yes, I am still trying to get my back checked out from people. No one has ever checked my back from that. So I keep mentioning it to medical professionals, and yet no one is doing that. But yeah, anyways, and so they think that from that hit, I damaged this nervous system in my body. And you can only get POTS, I believe, don't come at me for this, but I believe you can only get POTS from an injury. And it mainly happens in females. So yeah, and POTS also causes dizziness, like severe dizziness, especially when sitting up or turning or like sudden movements. It causes confusion, and it causes memory loss, and it causes like when you're reading and you can't comprehend what it's saying, it causes that too, which has been one of my main symptoms that has been like throwing everybody off. So yeah, like basically almost every single symptom that I've had, except for the eye migraines, is listed under like symptoms of POTS. And now I did, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I did post that I was diagnosed with POTS just because it was taking me so long to do one of these videos. And after I did that, I had quite a few people reach out to me saying that they were diagnosed with POTS. And some people, it took like 5 to 10 years of getting diagnosed with POTS, like a very, very long time. POTS is fairly new in Canada also. Someone from our church actually was diagnosed with POTS in the States, and they brought that information up here. So yeah, and yeah, so it just, yeah, so I guess that's why there's only one cardiologist in the city. But yeah, see, that like working memory, I'm having a hard time remembering what I was talking about. But yeah, so I am truly, truly grateful for finally having a diagnosis. I wasn't sure at first if I was actually diagnosed or if they said you may have POTS and we'll just give you this meds. But we looked back on the paperwork and they said I was officially diagnosed in the hospital with POTS, and we're going to see a cardiologist to figure out how to do anything. So I was truly thankful. I also had a lot of doubt about it too, I guess, just because I've had, again, so many problems trying to figure out what's wrong with me, that I had a lot of anxiety when I first got diagnosed that I'm still not going to get better. I'm still not going to be able to live my life. I'm still struggling with that a little bit, just because I'm still having quite a few symptoms since I've been back from the hospital. So yeah, that's something I'm really struggling with, and just playing the waiting game because I haven't heard back from the cardiologist. We have called, we have left a message. So I don't know, we'll see. It says online that you can, it's not curable, again, something that's not curable, but you can live with it if you practice with medication, diet, and exercise. It's basically, you should be able to live with it. As far as normality goes with living a normal life again, I don't know. I don't know like when I'll be able to drive again. I don't know when I'll be able to go work again. I don't know a lot of things. I really do have to wait until I speak to the cardiologist. So it's a waiting game, but at least I have a diagnosis, which is really, really good, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Another thing that happened was I found out I'm severely B12 deficient. I went to my doctor to follow up with a blood test that my other neurologist sent for, and she wouldn't let me leave the office without a B12 shot because she said like it was so bad it could be hospitalized. I was like, oh, I don't want that again. So I do have to go for frequent B12 shots, and then 6 months from now, after they do another blood test, I'll find out if I still need to go for B12 shots or not. So that's also something that's going on in my life. And it could also be making a lot of my POTS symptoms worse, because being B12 deficient also has a lot of same symptoms as POTS does. But I don't think that my symptoms and all my head issues come from being B12 deficient, because I've had a lot, a lot of blood tests since 2 years ago, and I'm pretty sure they have checked my B12. I think it's a fairly routine thing they check on, or should have been at least one of the first things they checked on. So, and they never said I was low in B12 or anything. So I do think that it might be contributing to some of my symptoms, which aren't the case. So yeah, since I've been out of the hospital, I've been on medication. Some things I still struggle with. When I go from lying down to sitting up, I still need to sit there for a few minutes to make sure I don't stand up and fall over, because I'm still quite lightheaded. I don't know if I would consider it dizzy, because I have been so dizzy before that I know what extreme dizziness is. So I would consider it quite lightheaded. I am sweating all the time. All the time. I have to have the AC blowing, and Steve is always freezing cold and always wearing sweaters and stuff, and we've completely flipped. So yeah, I am always sweating. What else? The working memory is quite an issue right now. There's often, even just in this video, where I literally will forget what I'm doing, sometimes where I am, quite a few things, and it can be scary. So yeah, working memory is quite an issue. I'm still having trouble with comprehending lots of information and text. I think it's almost worse than before I went in the hospital. And just because people will talk to me about 2 things, and I'll be like, nope. If it's a lot of information, I'll be like, no, I don't remember any of that. So I'll probably be asking about that again. Yeah, so that's still an issue. Sleep is a really big issue right now. Also, when I was in the hospital, they put me on steroids to help my body heal again. But I was coming off of them quicker, so the withdrawal was way worse this time around. I was a lot crankier, a lot moodier, a lot hungrier. I gained not as much weight, but I gained a lot of weight. I've only been off of them for 3 days now, so this moon face and this weight, it will be hopefully gone soon, because I don't like it at all. Yeah. So, and I'm just not sleeping at all. If it's a good and I'm also on sleeping medication plus melatonin on top of that. So if it's a good night, I'll fall asleep at 1, maybe wake up around 3, and then 5, 6, and every hour after that. So I'm not sleeping at all. I usually have 2 really bad nights per week where I don't fall asleep till 4:35 in the morning, and then I only sleep for 2 hours. But if I sleep past that, or if I sleep during the day, I won't sleep at night at all. So it's a really stressful time right now. I am always tired, and it adds to the crankiness and not being able to comprehend or do anything, and sweating. It adds to all of that. So yeah, I'm really struggling with sleep right now, badly. I'm also my joints are all swollen and swelling from the prednisone, so I'm in quite a bit of pain too. That it doesn't help at all. At least I hope it's from the prednisone, because I don't need another problem. So yeah, So those are some things that are going on in my life right now. Another thing too is that so I was on Inflectra, and obviously that wasn't working. And I've been my doctor, Dr. Singh, he's very, very good, by the way. He has been calling me. I think he's called me 4 or 5 times since I've been out of the hospital, and I've been out of the hospital just over a month now. So yeah, just he's really good. He's been catching up and sending me more tests and stuff like that. So he I'm not going to talk about every single phone call because quite frankly I don't remember them all. But the last 2 were he called me on a Friday and just to see how I was doing because I was just to be off prednisone, and he asked how my bathroom habits were, and he still wasn't fully like satisfied with it, and he was like, well, that's not where you should be, but we're gonna see because we've updated or we've upped your Inflectra and how often you're getting it. We're just gonna see how your next injection goes. I was like, oh, okay, sounds good. He's like, we'll do another follow-up in a month's time. And then the Monday after that Friday, I get a call from his office saying that Dr. Singh wants to talk to you. And I was like, oh, well, maybe you're confused because I just talked to him Friday. She looked and she's like, she asked what time, and I told her what time. And she's like, no, after that time, it says here that he still wants to talk to you. And I was like, oh, okay. So then she set up a phone call appointment. And then that week, Thursday, he called and he asked again how I was doing, and it was basically the same as to where I was. And he told me that after our phone conversation, the previous one, he reviewed everything from when I got diagnosed to where I am now, and he feels that if I continued on with Inflectra, that I would be quite unstable for quite some time, and I wouldn't live a normal life for a long time. So he switched me. To a drug called Entyvio, which actually I have a family member who's on that as well, and I've heard really, really good things about it. So hopefully it will work. But basically, it's completely different than Inflectra. I won't be immune suppressed anymore once Inflectra's out of my system. I mean, I might still get a little more sick, and I might be still immune suppressed just because I'm not quite stable yet. But as far as like medication goes, there's nothing that I'll be on that suppresses my immune system. This is the only drug for ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease that does not suppress your immune system. And instead of taking 4 hours to go through my system, it only takes me a half hour, which means I only have to be there for an hour. So I'm very excited about this. I don't know, he says, again, it's kind of like starting new. So again, we have to make sure that it works and I don't go into a flare up, and that I don't have an allergic reaction. I don't know if they're gonna, because I had an allergic reaction to Inflectra, so I don't know if they're just going to continue on with the hydrocortisone and the Benadryl, or if they're just going to just give me the Entyvio and see how my body reacts to it. I also don't know how much yet or how often I'm going. We're still waiting to hear back for that email. I also don't know if, because my next Inflectra injection is next week Tuesday, so I don't know if I'm going for that injection and then Entyvio shortly after, because I do know that it's supposed to be in the next couple of weeks, Entyvio. So I'm waiting to hear back for dates, and then I will relay those dates to my doctor, and then he'll let me know if I should just get Inflectra and then Entyvio even a couple days later, because there is no washout period. So yeah, that will be something new. I really, really hope this works. I really do, because I am sick and tired of getting into flare-ups every like 2-3 weeks. It's really, really exhausting. So much exhausting actually, and so taxing on the body that like before I went to like before ulcerative colitis, my body weight was at like 130, and then being on steroids, I went up to 190, and then by the time I went to, which was in February, or sorry, after I was off steroids, I was probably April. So it was April, and then by the time I went to the hospital in end of July, beginning of August, So that's April, June, July, August, so like 5 months. I went from 190 to 135 again, because that's how much weight I lost during flare-ups. I didn't work out all because I was always so exhausted, so I literally would lose like 10 to 15 pounds per flare-up, if I did that math correctly. I don't even do math, I'm just throwing out numbers out there. But that's how much weight I lost. Like, that's how bad flare-ups were, and I am done with that. I'd rather lose weight the hard way, working out. So, I really, really hope that this works. And please pray for me that it does work, and that the POTS thing is a right diagnosis, and I will see a cardiologist soon, because I am looking forward to living a normal life again. I know this video was long, but there was a lot to update you guys on. Yeah, so hopefully my next video will be a lot sooner, and with happier updates. Hopefully no more hospitalizations for me. And yeah, until next time.